so torn. They said it was fear, reopening the doors, filled with whispers behind closed floors. A white boy convicted made it look fair, but in the shadow of justice, the truth laid bare. Eddie was a name, but just a pawn in the game, sacrificed and railroaded. Nothing felt the same. Oh, just a boy from Somerville. They played with his life as if it was a thrill. Politics and pressure, shadows at play, innocent hearts lost in this twisted ballet. Barnum was under pressure, he folded like glass. The DA showboating, just trying to amass. The system wanted justice, but justice was blind, changing the laws, leaving truth far behind. Remove the judge who dared to be just. Eddie was demonized in the world's cruel thrust. Size mattered not when politics run deep. From day one he fought, but all they did was sweep. Oh, just a boy from Somerville. They played with his life as if it was a thrill. Politics and pressure, shadows at play, innocent hearts lost in this twisted ballet. And those inside knew the story was wrong. We could have done better, sang the old wrong song. Experts pressure to twist the truth arm in the court of despair. There was no charm. He never stood a chance from the very start. A tragic confession, a broken heart. Watch Eddie's face when the world turned cold. An innocent spirit caught in a tale retold. The system failed him, that much is clear. A boy from Somerville, lost in his fear. Yet in the ashes, his story remains of the justice betrayed and the bitter pains. Through the lens of history, we sing his plight. Remember the boy who stood up to the night. Just a boy from Somerville. They played with his life as if it was a thrill. Politics and pressure, shadows at play, innocent hearts lost in this twisted ballet. So let's tell this story, raise voices, unite. For every Eddie, let's stand up and fight. Just a boy from Somerville, forever we'll stand in the heart of the people. His truth in our hands.
What's up, everybody? How we doing today? Mic check, mic check, mic check. How's everybody doing? What's happening? Just a boy from Somerville. Just a boy from Somerville, man. While y'all are probably just waking up, I'm just getting out of work. You know what I'm saying? Gotta deliver you them great donuts that I would never eat You know what I mean? So, as while you're just saying no, just say no to them damn donuts as well. Hello, Aunt Jerry. How are you doing? Hope everything's going well for you and yours. The kind Oracle. Oh, Freebird right away with the 50 piece. Shout out to Freebird. Oh no, I won't get any work done now. All good. Eddie deserves our best and our all. Run the DNA today. Free Eddie today. Absolutely, man. Oh no, you didn't. Freebird has been such, never mind that she donates to the platform. She's been so great just in some of the legal research that they pull up, like unbelievable stuff, man. And it gets my mind spinning, and I'm like, that's right. you know um last night I stopped over on JFK's channel, and he see me in there, and he said, "Oh, can we keep it reals here? I want to ask him, since you're free Eddie," and he said, "If the evidence brings you another way, like Eddie did it, should Eddie still be out?" And I said, "If I found out that Eddie did this, should he be out? Yes, absolutely." And I'm sure y'all want to know why, right? You're like, "What do you mean he should be out?" If you found out Eddie did this, he should be out. Absolutely. And I'm going to tell you why. And you can't ask me them questions like, "Oh, but what if this was your mother?" Because them questions are just not fair at all. If this was your mother, that is why I am a seed planter and a thought provoker. God makes everything grow. Absolutely, man. Free Eddie. The kind of uncle said he has paid his dues. And what I am going to, and we are going to get into it, and I'm going to explain to you why I think that, which I don't think he did it. Let's be clear, right? I don't think he did it at all. You know what I mean? I think he is innocent. Um, and like a lot of people like, "Oh yeah, but I can't get by this and I can't get by that." But we have to look at what the law says, right? Lady Liberty's blind. You know what I mean? But first of all, I just want to good morning to everybody. Good morning to the chat. I'm getting ahead of myself. Good morning to everybody, the friends, the strangers, the workers, the stalkers. Every episode, but welcome back. Another Eddie Obrien episode. And yeah, I'm definitely all in on the free Eddie till it's backwards. Free Eddie backwards is Eddie's free, but we're breaking down, what evidence makes sense, but the jury in this case, that jury was running on a Windows 95 or something. But listen, most of y'all in here are free Eddie, right? Or at least leaning towards it. Honestly, I don't know how you wouldn't be after looking at the evidence. How would you not be free Eddie? You look at the evidence, it's the only place it takes you, unless, you're allergic. Unless you're allergic, to the facts. And some people are just gonna go on, well, it was such a horrible, it was so many cuts, but unless you break out in highs with the truth, or something hits you in your head, I don't know if after I'm done, if anyone's gonna be able to change your mind. We went over the DNA. The DNA is showing it was not Eddie's DNA. That says it all. Period. That's one of them. Absolutely. That says it was not Eddie. You can't argue with that. No, absolutely, you can't. You know what I mean? And DNA don't lie. DNA don't lie. Blood don't lie. You know what I mean? Blood splatter tells a lot. Not the kind of DNA the Commonwealth lost. Not the kind that they forgot to test. You know, not the kind that they forgot to test. Oh no, I'm talking about the digital kind, the safe kind that doesn't end up mislabeled in a basement next to like a broken fan. I mean, when you look at a jury too, like I never really had a lot of trust in juries. Depending on what type of judge you get, it's a crapshoot. Trusting a jury is crazy. It's like trusting a group project team. That you didn't even read the assignment. Oh, Jay Brill, what's up, Jay Brill? Jay Brill in the chat. Everyone say what's up to Jay Brill. But yeah, we're gonna get into it. Why Jay Brill? I'm gonna break it down. Why I think even if Eddie's guilty, why he should be out and he should be home. And there might not even be a need for another parole hearing. Like I think this is gonna be such. I don't think there's gonna be any other way. Because we know he wasn't convicted by a jury of his peers. He was convicted by a jury. You know what I mean? Come on. I mean, this is a jury that couldn't get out of jury duty. But I have no faith in juries. I mean, some juries, I seen better decision maker, you know, the Dollar Tree self checkout. I mean, some juries, I'm just like, yo, like, I can't have no faith in that, man. But yeah, definitely buckle up, go grab your coffee, grab your vapes. I got mine. At Jay Brill. Shout out to Jay Brill. You know, um, I'm glad he's here to hear this. But once you hear what was presented, what was ignored, I think what was, straight up misunderstood. I mean, you're gonna see why Eddie O'Brien. I mean, once you get into the trial, you can kind of see why he never really stood much of a chance. But I really believe that Eddie's sentence was an illegal sentence. For those of you that just joining us, I appreciate it if you share this, because I think we need to get as many eyes on this as possible. But we're talking about Eddie O'Brien, the facts, the law, the injustice is loud. And something that JoJo said, the cover up is always, you know, um, bigger than the crime itself. Oh, Miss Trisha is in the house. Shout out to Mama O'Brien. Good morning. What we're talking about so simple. It's just facts. But sometimes you got to try to break it down so everybody understands it. But the law that put Eddie in adult court, that's what I like to talk about a little bit. Unconstitutional today, absolutely. What up, good brother? My brother Joseph Burho. What's up, Jojo? How we doing? True wife, you said good morning, Mama O'Brien. But the law that put like after this, I mean, the Rule 30 is probably going to be packed with stuff, right? But I think when you look at the unconstitutional arguments, the court can't fight that. Not questionable, not iffy, not that shit that needs review. I mean, straight up unconstitutional, right? Because the same law that they use to drag 15-year-old baby boy into adult court, That's the same law they used to give him a life sentence. A life sentence. Some people can't even grip on that. It's not like a day for a day out here. Every day in there is like, it's a hell of a lot longer. And for Eddie to be there as long as he was and not get prone to the violence and not get caught up in all the bullshit. But the same laws they used to give this kid a life sentence is the same laws they used to say, hey, he's old enough to be like a grown man. Now you see that law was reversed. That law was thrown out, invalid, dead, gone. They used the law on Eddie that the courts later said, yo, that shit was mad unconstitutional. So what should have happened? Under modern constitutional law, the law we use today, Eddie Obrien should have been tried as a juvenile. And the maximum sentence for a juvenile in Mass at that time was 20 years. It wasn't life. It wasn't 30. It wasn't that you have to end life incarcerated. It was 20. So when you ask me, Mike, I was asked last night if the evidence shows you, this, because I know you're Team Eddie, but if the evidence shows you that Eddie's guilty, and go over there and check out the JFK show. They have a lot, like 40 episodes, 42 episodes, mad interviews. You want to get caught up. If anyone's just coming in, just joining us, you want to get caught up, go over there. They got a lot of content. But he asked me, and I said, absolutely. Absolutely. And he said something funny. He said, damn, when you were doing your time in Rhode Island, I wonder, what kind of guys you was around. But it's like the law is the law. And I was like, nah, it's just unconstitutional. I was working, so it was kind of hard to explain, and that's how, I say, even if, yes, so if I found out that Eddie was guilty of this, yes, he should still be released because that was the law. The law was unconstitutional. Eddie has already served way more than what he should have served. So legally, morally, constitutionally, Eddie O'Brien should have been home a 10-piece ago. At least 10 years ago, he should have been home. Why does this matter? Because I love when people say, oh, he's guilty. Why is he guilty? Oh, because a court of his peers. And I laugh at that. I love that when a court of my peers. I just, you know what? None of them people on that jury was Eddie O'Brien peer. If the rule changes, the sentence changes, right? If the foundation's rotten, the whole damn house comes down. And definitely, people, listen, man, if you really want to help Eddie O'Brien, go to this link, givesendgo.com, because this Rule 30, which will be filed soon, it's going to need, it's more than just filing it and go. They're going to need investigators. They're going to need all types of stuff. And if Turtle Boy can come up with $400,000, and I think that's crazy. Okay, I'll be like, run your pockets, Turtle. Run your pockets. But if he could raise $400,000, like, come on, what can we do for Eddie? You know what I mean? But I am like almost so positive that he's going to be released. I'm looking forward to the Freedom Party. You know what I mean? Let's go. I'm definitely looking forward to that because we know the law was unconstitutional, right? We're not going to keep this kid in prison anyway. I mean, you never know the way Massachusetts has been, because I'm like, God damn. But that's not justice. That's not law, man. That's revenge dressed up as friggin' paperwork. You know, so poor Eddie, right? Sitting in the joint today because the law no longer exists. Like, but people say, well, once the law changes, shouldn't that automatically free Eddie? They're not going to allow that. How about this? How about at one time, Rhode Island was one of the few states, right, that you had your violation of your probation hearing 10 days after you're arrested on your original charge. Your violation hearing. Now, you still got your charge pending. You know what I mean? So they find you guilty on your violation and they give you 10 years on a 10-year probation, right? They give it all to you because you're making them take it to a hearing. And all they need to convict you of a probation violation is the judge has to be convinced you got arrested. Well, coming in handcuffs is enough to convince you of that, Your Honor. Right? So now you're doing 10 years. Absolutely. Nothing but love. Shout out to Jojo. What's up? So now you're doing 10 years on a violation, right? So now your charge comes up. Say you go 4 years in. You get found not guilty on your charge, right? But you took 10 years. You got a 10-year sentence on your probation violation, which they violate, but you got found not guilty on your charge. So do you get out of jail that day because they found you not guilty on your charge, but you got 10 years on your violation? Well, I'll tell you, no, they don't let you out. You have to put a post-conviction in to the courts, and you have to, ask the court to let you out. But unless you put the post-conviction in, that's crazy, like they found me not guilty on the charge, but you're doing 10 years on a probation violation. The system hates admitting it's wrong. We know that, but we're going to tell you. Give me a minute. I'll be right back. Who rode Eddie's back all the way to the governor's office?
Let me tell you about a kid, only 15 years. Eddie Obrien, caught in the gears. Political pawns, they played their game. Power and money all in his name. But was tight with will, no simple fate. Climbed the ladder, sealed Eddie's state. Wayne but a prosecutor with a purpose. In the court of politics, none could touch us. This ain't just a story, it's a legacy. Eddie was the stone that shaped their destiny. With every connection, every hand they shake, Eddie's case became the ground they break. Riley and Bud, best friends since youth, built a law firm, they spun the truth. When Riley took the case, he was never alone. Built on foundations, power fully grown. With the Budwell network, they made a show. Charlie Baker in the mix, he's part of the flow. All linked together, climbing the heights. On Eddie's back, they rose to new sights. This ain't just a story, it's a legacy. Eddie was the stone that shaped their destiny. With every connection, every hand they shake, Eddie's case became the ground they break. Kimberly Budd, her name now in lights. Chief Justice of the court in the highest of fights. Calls Riley godfather, mentor, uncle too. Let that sink in deep, Eddie's pain paved through. Judge Heffernan ruled fair, you played your part. But the pressure came down like a storm in the dark. It wasn't about truth, wasn't about rights. It was all about power and their political heights. a legacy. Eddie was the stone that shaped their destiny. With every connection, every hand they shake, Eddie's case became the ground they break. Eddie got used by a system so cruel. A pawn on the chessboard, they played him as a fool. So remember his name, let it echo, let it be free. Eddie till it's backwards. Fight for the right, you see. Can we keep it real time? Let the truth ignite. We don't bend, we don't break. We will stand for the light.
I like that one, man. I like that one. It keeps the energy going, man. But what's up, everybody, man? We're talking, the question was asked to me, about Eddie Obrien. And I wanted to make it clear. It was asked, if I was asked, why am I convinced about Eddie? And we'll get into that. But if I found out, that the evidence changed, would I think, Eddie should be out? And I said, absolutely, because, the law is unconstitutional. But if the rules change, the sentence changes, but the foundation is so rotten that the whole house has to come down. And since Karen Reed, we see what's real, right? We see that, they really be setting people up. That ain't justice. That's some bull crap. Oh, thank you. Really appreciate that. We're just doing it for Eddie, man. But Eddie O'Brien sitting in prison today because of a law that no longer exists. It's 11:08. It's probably, tying his shoes, getting ready to go to chow. You know what I mean? Hanging out on the block or something. This law was so bad, so unfair, right? So unconstitutional. They had to throw it out for everyone else. And forget Turtle Boy, people. Forget that guy, man. Let's talk about freeing somebody. Let's talk about freeing a boy that's been there since he was 15 years old. Someone that's been a peacemaker from day one. People are like, oh my God, he had a cell phone. You know what? It's every inmate's wet dream to cell phone. You're like, what you would do for a cell phone? My goodness, don't know he had a, come on, you can't be mad at that. Can't be mad your boy had a cell phone. What would happen if Eddie was arrested today? The same facts, 30 years later, right? Everything's the same. If Eddie got arrested today, do you know what would happen? Even to 2026, he would not be in adult court. He would not get life. He would definitely do a 20 piece. He would not be sitting in a cell right now or in the law library or getting his hair cut or walking the yard or going to the gym or going to the education building or, trying to figure out, do I need to order commissary or cleaning his cell? Because you're so friggin' everything by, and that alone, forget the evidence, forget the inconsistencies, and forget the politics. I mean, that alone is enough to free Eddie. So, yes, if I found out today that, he was guilty, I still think he should be free. And I know some people are like, oh my God, well, how can you say that? And I say that because it was unconstitutional. DNA don't lie. Freebird just said it. The DNA, we haven't even got to that. I'm just focusing on the law that they use for the transfer hearing. That alone. He'd be home. He'd be working. He'd be living, breathing, existing. He'd be able to put his hand, like, remember what LL Cool J said in the movie with the sharks? He said, you put your finger on a hot pan and it feels like eternity. Laying with a beautiful woman is like 5 seconds. Eddie never got to experience that. Like the things that we take for granted, going to the bathroom by ourselves. Imagine that. Going to the bathroom by yourself is such a luxury. Sitting on a toilet with a toilet seat is a luxury. And that's why I believe that Eddie should be home, because I think it was unconstitutional. Eddie would have been home years ago if they followed their own laws instead of rigging the system to get what they wanted. A lot of politics was involved in this. A lot of it had to do with not open that youth facility. And people like, would they really sacrifice a kid for this? Like, there was a lot of players involved. They did not want to open that youth facility. You look at what Judge Heffernan said, a Charlestown guy. Go back a couple episodes. It's called the one where he talks about that they didn't give me a chance to mourn my friend's mom. Go watch that episode with JoJo, and it's all laid out in there. And not only that, there's some stand-up guys, like stand 10 toes down, that would never stand on the side of Eddie. And everybody that I've ran into, everybody that I've talked to, that was stand-up guys, knock around guys, that would never stand next to Eddie. And they have his back. Because Eddie is the only innocent man. And I know there's more than Eddie, but I mean, Eddie's so innocent. He's the only innocent man in them buildings. Forget the politics. That alone is enough for Eddie. So, bless. Are you still talking free Eddie? Absolutely. I free him until it's backwards. We're going to talk about this until he is out. Because the law that put him away was illegal. They have deep pockets, and keeping someone in prison under an illegal law, that's not justice. Who's the real criminals? Put it in the chat. Who is the real criminals in this case? We're going to go over some notes. I'm downloading them now from Jim Stanford, back from September 15th, 97. Wow, I had a boxing match at the Leroy Theater on September 15th. And I think a year later, my grandmother passed away on that date. September 15th, 1997. We're going to look at some notes. It's a lot of scribble. I had to break this stuff down. We had to transcribe it. It was tough, but I think we got most of it. Give me a minute. I'm trying to upload it now. Okay, what's three clerk Monty saying? They used the law to try him as an adult right before they tried him as an adult. That's the law that they pushed, and then they took the law was deemed unconstitutional. So the law is gone now. It's not even there. They changed the law to try him as an adult. Criminal acts occur. Investigators learn if there are interest in the matter, um, which interest is backed by most power. Outcome is determined. Investigation and legal. Great one. I wonder if they gave AO back his cab key. If it would have been a GU that they found instead of a key, would they have given that back to him too? Just because it was a key, it was still evidence. Absolutely. And went to college and all right, graduated, got married, had my kids, then moved back to Mass and my family. I'm kind of lost up here, but I do know where Beverly is. Well, I know under that law. I mean, I don't know about anybody, but under that law, particular law that they said was unconstitutional. That's the law that they use for that next transfer hearing. That's the transfer hearing that'll probably be in the Rule 30. Um, and that came from right up from the Hefferon report. So we're gonna break down these notes. Welcome everybody. If you're just joining us, about some notes for where are my notes? These notes were, I mean, you would think you're going to write notes like this, can we make them a little more legible? Can we make them just a little legible? But today we're going to break down some trial notes, or even try to. But when I tell you, these notes look like they were written by somebody fighting a bee while they were on a moving bus. Boy, buckle up, man. So section one, I figure, page one, these are handwritten notes, I guess, from Officer Jim Stanford. And the date on the note says September 15th. Fruits from a poisonous tree. Oh, yes. Boy, that Route 30 just keeps getting bigger. So they're supposed to document. This is their documentation. Imagine that. This is the documentation. God damn. You know what I mean? So they're supposed to document, when evidence gets collected, about who was at the scene, what he saw, who he talked to, his interviews with Eddie O'Brien, you know. But the handwriting, man, it's giving that doctor prescription meets kindergarten worker kind of feeling. When I seen the writing, I was like, my goodness, man. So I guess Jim, that's what we'll call him, right? Or should we call him the writer? It looks like that he's gonna the vial, the test tube. Now, in one of these sections, he wants to list. He says Johnson, Donovan, wants to say who's here. Ortiz, Officer Brown, medical personnel, Eddie O'Brien Jr., Eddie's father, everybody named Mama, basically, that was in that damn house. So I figured what he got cops in there, cops were outside, news was outside, medical people running around, chaos. Here's where he's saying, who is here? This is imagine that this is who like when I read this part, I was like, what the hell is he trying to say? And then I kind of look at it a little bit and I'm trying to figure this shit out. I said, okay, this must be a bunch of the names that were in the house. You know what I mean? And then I seen Steve Johnson's name there, which is right here. Let me make sure y'all can see the same thing. Oh, all right, good. I want to make sure y'all can at least see that shit. Oh, Steve Johnson? Yeah, right. He is a police officer from what I found out. So let me get back to my page. It's not going to be easy with these damn notes, so bear with me. So basically, right under this, he's trying to say that there was cops inside the house, there was cops outside the house. Told it quickly, recklessly. Eddie Senior's name's there. Firmino arrives. Talk about, Firmino's a name that keeps coming up. Even I think I seen a report that even the mayor said Firmino was dirty. Crime scene he has right here. Crime scene July. Over here is what's the crime scene look like? Right here's the part of the note that he's detailing. It looks like the crime scene, right? Crime scene tape. Okay, we got tape. Second floor bedroom. And blood in the cellar. Upstairs. I mean, the house was a mess. There's blood downstairs, blood upstairs. Cellar area right here. Cellar area with blood. Saw blood. The house was a mess. Blood downstairs. Body upstairs. Cops everywhere. He also says he walked around the outside and didn't see anyone suspicious. Rear door shut. I mean, this guy reads like a friggin' toddler explaining their day. So which page was that? How long was the body there? Hey, hold on. Let me try something a little better. Hold on 1 second, peeps. Just bear with me. I'm just doing something. I'm just trying to look at this a little better on the bigger screen. And it goes back outside. I barely arrives at T corner in the house 5-10 minutes. It says right here. In house. Goes back outside. Speaks to him about 10 minutes. Emotionally, right here. Emotionally broken up. Couldn't be interviewed that day. Yeah, Ryan was just, I guess, his brother, not Ryan. Couldn't be interviewed that day. Over here it says he brought Ryan over to Elka crying and couldn't try to speak. But was it Ryan or was it Paul? Couldn't be interviewed that day. Goes back inside. This is some tough shit to understand. Bradley pulled up to the scene in the house 5-10 minutes. He's saying on this page he went inside the house for a couple minutes. Basically he couldn't interview the boys. He said they was like emotionally broken up. They were crying, upset, not in any condition to be questioned. And he brought Ryan, that was when he brought him over to the other car. So he couldn't even be interviewed. So Bradley shows up, right? He goes inside, he comes back out, he tries talking to people. He said, but everybody was too emotional to talk. People were crying, they were tired, overwhelmed. The cops couldn't get a real interview out of anybody. And that probably matters because when the prosecution tries to act like everybody was calm, clear, and consistent, the notes may say otherwise. Oh, boy. That was a bitch. That one was a bitch. I thought I had these notes like pretty much down. I'm like, whoa. And then this one, I think this is page 4. And this one, let me pull it up here. I think I transcribed this one already. So speak to Ortiz. He was in the crowd. Speak with Ortiz. He was in the crowd. The next line, go to house, check if needed, trying to get assistance of faculty to neighbor. Right here. Interview Edward O'Brien, told hospital. The cop was over there interviewing Edward O'Brien Jr. Regarding a robbery and a stabbing. So right around. Let me check the. Hang on, I'm coming back. Yeah, but I'll tell you, trying to. Oof. So he was basically told that they were at the hospital trying to interview Eddie Jr. And now is a lot of stuff that we have visible on that page. So what do we know about that page? He spoke with Adi, right? He said he was in the crowd. They talked to a dude named Ortiz who was just standing around watching everything all night long. All right, gotta go, Jay, bro. Peace. Thank you. He probably never did. He probably didn't prosecute before or after. Go to house, check if needed, trying to get assistance of faculty or neighbor. I mean, they went back to the house to double check things and tried to get help from someone nearby. Yeah, and then he was told that they already had at this time they probably already had the whole story in their head. Even before talking to Eddie. I mean, we don't even know if they went there with a narrative already. I mean, the police were talking to random people in the crowd, right? Running back and forth between the house and the neighbor's house, labeling the situation as an armed robbery, um, stabbing already. Heading to the hospital to interview Eddie, documenting the time. The cops were scrambling that night, confused, it sounds like. I mean, from these notes, it sounds like they were already pushing a storyline before they even talked to Eddie. No one could read it. I know. It's like, what the hell? But this is the kind of sloppy note taking that makes you question the entire investigation. Did they want you to understand this? Did they want you to know what it said? Probably not. Probably not. So let's look at these next set. Free Eddie. Free Eddie, free Eddie, free Eddie, free Eddie, free Eddie. Damn, these notes are crazy. So Duggar shows up, right? Walks out. Father shows up. JS talks to the father, wants to speak to son. So someone named Duggar ends up showing up at the scene, right? They walk outside towards somebody. Is that named Juno or Joe? There was some kind of conflict or disagreement. Duggar pulls up, walks over, and immediately somebody wasn't agreeing with somebody, and the cop wrote it down like a friggin' confused substitute teacher. So I guess they were saying that the dude spoke to the father. The father wanted to. Eddie's father arrives. The officer recognized him from the crime scene, and the father wanted to talk to Eddie. The officer basically waved him in and let him go talk to his son. He said Eddie's dad showed up, like, "Where's my kid?" The cop knew him, talked to him, and then said, "Yeah, go ahead, go talk to him." Was he not supposed to? So people showed up at the scene. There was confusion, conflict about conversations. Eddie's father arrived emotional and wanted access to his son. The officer let him go in and talk. The scene was chaotic. People were arguing, and Eddie's dad walked right in to talk to him. Nothing about this was controlled or professional. Yeah, this was definitely the kind of sloppy environment that makes you question this entire friggin' investigation. The entire investigation. You know, some of the key points in these notes by Jim Stanford, right? I mean, it's a total mess. I mean, imagine this type of scribble on a case like this. 12 pages of scribble scratch. I have it written down in a summary. This is a 12-page PDF file, basically, the handwritten notes. So the notes mention vials, test tubes, cotton swabs, and evidence being packed separately. This is from officers documenting the initial forensic collection. Mentioned someone named LL or LLC, unclear due to handwriting. They collected samples, but the notes are sloppy and incomplete. Stanford lists in these notes Officer Johnson, Donovan, Ortiz, Officer Brown, medical personnel, Steve Johnson, Eddie Obrien Jr., Eddie's father. A lot of people were in and out of the house. Scene control was weak, officer ends up writing down. He ends up writing the crime scene layout, the crime scene tape, the second floor bedroom, blood in the cellar, clothing with blood on the collar, rear door, full floor search. Officer Stanford knows that he goes in the house for 5-10 minutes. Outside talking to someone, back inside in protective gear, outside again. Buddy, you're bouncing in and out of this house. Someone was emotionally broken up, couldn't be interviewed. Ryan was crying and exhausted. Interview with Eddie Obrien Jr. Sanford describes Eddie as calm, cooperative, shirt inside out, no injuries, shoes off. Eddie walked him through where he said things happened, where he fell, the path he took, but no blood was found. And the second interview with Eddie took place about 6:15 p.m. He describes Eddie's lying on a couch, wanted to play, gave vague answers, mentioned someone named Paul, didn't give clear info about who had issues with the victim. I mean, does a 15-year-old know that? Eddie wasn't acting like a stressed suspect because he wasn't. You know what I mean? His answers were inconsistent. Really. So someone reported being, all right, Eddie's father shows up at the hospital. Father want to talk. Stanford writes, ask for victims closed. Violent crime protocol, EMT involvement. What's up?
What's up?
I'll be right back. Give me a second. No, it's all right. What are you doing?
Man, but yeah, stop and say what up.
In the courtroom lights, truth's gonna bend. Heffernan standing tall, trying to defend. Said it looked bad on paper, but it's all deeper. Politics lurking, call it a grim reaper. Eddie was just a kid, caught in the fray, but the power players had a game to play. From day one, they wanted him to fall. A kid in the spotlight, crushed by it all. Heffernan knew the truth. No, it ain't fair. Politics behind the scenes, no one would care. Guilty or innocent, the verdict was set. Justice wasn't blind, it was a political bet. Bonham was chosen, thought he would be right. A face of fairness in that long, dark night. But the DA smiled wide, played both sides slick. Heffernan thought neutral, but maybe that's the trick. Eddie's fate sealed with a stroke of a pen. My ruling was sound, but the world turned again. They needed him guilty to fit their plan, change the laws mid-game. Oh, what a scam! Heffernan knew the truth. No, it ain't fair. Politics behind the scenes, no one would care. Guilty or innocent, the verdict was set. Justice wasn't blind, it was a political bet. Juvenile court, he should have stayed there. 20 years, not a slap, but no one would care. System in panic cause he stood his ground, but the wheels of justice just turned him around. They wanted Eddie down, they wanted him lost. With the stakes so high, he paid the cost. Heffernan's truth rang clear in the dark. Tried to bring light, but it missed the mark. Eddie, a kid caught in a game, lost in the shuffle, society's shame. So here's a lesson carved deep as stone. Justice shouldn't wear a political tone. Heffernan stood firm, knew it wasn't just. In a world focused on power, who can you trust? Heffernan knew the truth. No, it ain't fair. Politics behind the scenes, no one would care. Guilty or innocent, the verdict was set. Justice wasn't blind, it was a political bet. So let's remember as the story unfolds, the tales of the innocent, the truth yet told. Heffernan knew the truth, and it cuts like a knife in the courtroom of power. What's the cost of a life?
Hey, we're back. What's going on, everybody? Yeah, these friggin' these notes were crazy. But yeah, now my brother stopped over. I just had to see what's up. You know? But what's going on? How we doing?
Love you too, honey. You be good.
Talk to you soon, bro.
All right, I'll see you soon.
All right, honey. Be good.
Everything all right?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, okay.
I'm working.
All right.
You need me to get off or anything? You sure?
Go ahead, do your thing.
All right. I just
I
want
love you, bro.
love you
See
too,
you
man.
later, honey.
My bad. My brother stopped over. Joe Dugan State Police CPAC. They're the worst. CPAC. My goodness. Yeah, but some of these notes was just like it's just disgusting and messy notes. You know, the shit was just couldn't be interviewed ever. Eddie inspires me every day to be a better person and do what I can. I am sure he inspires many he will never know about. Imagine that, man. You know, Eddie's probably like, I inspire, you know, and so the email is can we keep it real 5@gmail.com. Can we keep it real? One word, 5@gmail.com. Big shout out to Norm, Corey. You know what I mean? Over there, one of Norm Corey always has a lot of information on this case. Absolutely. Yeah, very easy. Can we keep it real? The number 5@gmail.com. Oh, cigarettes over there? Oh, but that's what you were saying. But if you go over to the truth about Eddie O'Brien .com, there's a lot of information on this website. Right now, I'm gonna pull up Virginia Reckley's statement. We'll go over that quick. At least this one is a little more legible. All right, yeah, this one's a little more legible, man. But after you read this statement, the timeline ain't timing, is it? Virginia's the neighbor. She's the one neighbor who saw the family. She heard some noises, was right there when Janet was found, right? She helped with the kids. She watched the police response. So she's not guessing. She's not repeating rumors. She's going to tell us exactly what she saw and what she heard. So she starts off with that her and her husband, Barry, come home around 7:30, 8 o'clock. All right, 1 second. I know what I got to do. Give me a minute. That might make it a little easier. But I'm going to read it to you, so don't worry about reading it. And we'll start off with that, and then we'll break it down a little bit. So Barry and I returned from the boat around 7:38 a.m. Ed O'Brien was on the front porch of his house. I went over to tell him about the boat. Trisha came out with coffee, and we both looked down at Gina Mahoney's house and waved to Janet, who was sitting on Gina's porch. Trisha and I walked to get coffee, and both started our amazement that Janet was at Gina's house. I guess Janet probably wasn't one to really go over there, and that's probably why they both stared at their amazement. But a little after noon, my daughter brought my granddaughter over to be babysat. Around 5:30, I was walking the baby and stopped at Gina Mahoney's house to chat with Gina. Around 6 p.m., Jeannie O'Brien pulled up in her aunt's car with Paul. Gina and I joked with Paul as he walked into his house. Neither Janet nor her car were around. A little after 6:30 p.m., my daughter and her husband arrived to have dinner and pick up the baby. Between 7:30, 7:45, we had dinner, then went outside to let the baby play in the wading pool. About 8:15, my daughter, the baby, and I went back in the house to change the baby and get my husband's birthday cake ready. Maybe this is why nobody heard the noise, if it happened at this time. Between 8:15 and 8:30, my daughter Chrissy and I were changing the baby in the dining room and heard a loud banging noise on the stairs next door. It sounded like someone coming down the stairs and banging the last 3 or 4. My daughter was concerned about the noise, but we did not respond as there was no yelling, screaming, or dog barking, and I would consider this to be an unusual but fairly common noise coming from the apartment next door. No dog barking, though. That's kind of insane. Panshi, Chrissy, and baby left around 9:05, 9:10 p.m., and after they pulled out of the driveway, Barry, who had walked them out to their car, went across the street to talk to Ed O'Brien. During this time, I washed the dishes in the kitchen and cleaned up around the downstairs of the house. I heard no unusual loud noises from next door. Barry returned about 9:30 or so and came in to watch TV. Shortly after, Ed O'Brien ran down the sidewalk in front of our house yelling, "Barry, come quick!" Barry and I both ran out the house and we ran in the same direction as Ed. Alina Graziano across the street yelled out, "In Janet's house!" Ed entered first. Barry ran in after him. I stopped about 4 feet inside the second entry door. The first thing I noticed was the water in the bathroom was running over the sink. I do not recall seeing any blood in or around the sink area or in the hallway where I was standing. I turned and looked straight into the dining room, and Janet was lying on the floor beneath the windows with her feet facing me. There was what appeared to be blood around her body. Although there did not appear to be blood on her, she was wearing a light pink short sleeve v neck top and a pair of beige shorts. Her arms were extended down towards her sides, slightly away from her body, and her legs were straight, slightly apart. And her head was slightly turned towards the left. Her eyes were open, and she was not breathing. She was pale and waxy and drained. I noticed one slash type mark on the front of her shirt, although there was no blood surrounding the mark. I also noticed that her knees and legs were slashed. Again, there was no blood on these wounds. There appeared to be no other blood under the which she was lying in. The dog Joshua was cowering beneath the dining room table. Ed O'Brien said, "Oh my God." And someone said, "I don't know if it was Barry or Ed. I think she's..."
All right.
I attempt to step back and my foot. I was barefoot, felt something. I looked down and saw two overturned picture frames, placed perfectly, one in front of the other, directly at my feet. There was not any broken glass or blood anywhere on the floor in that area. Barry turned and grabbed my arms and said, "Get him out of here." I looked at my right and noticed Ryan standing in the entryway. I immediately turned, grabbed Ryan, and directed him out the door and down to the brick steps at the front of the house where we stopped and sat down. We began taking off his rollerblades, and Ryan kept repeating, "She is dead, isn't she? My mother's dead, huh?" I replied, "We don't know that yet. Let's wait till the ambulance gets here." "We don't know that, Ryan." When we completed taking off his rollerblades, we walked to the end of the entry walk, and at the time, a Somerville police cruiser pulled up in front of the walk, and the officer casually got out the car and asked, "What's wrong?" I said to him, "In the house. Please go in the house." The officer again asked what was wrong, and I told him he needed to go in the house. He moved to go in the house. I moved Ryan to the driveway where he gripped the fence and began shaking it violently. I grabbed him and he turned around and hugged me tightly and just kept holding me and saying, "My mother, my mother." Other police cruisers pulled up on the street, along with fire vehicles and ambulances. 3 girls approached and asked what had happened. I told them something happened to Ryan's mom, and did they know where we could get a hold of Paul or Erin. One of the young ladies who had been standing at the end of my driveway asked to use the phone. I showed her where it was in my house, and she placed her call. I left her in the kitchen. She came out and told me that while she was on the phone, a Somerville cop had forced my cellar door open, breaking the lock, and entered the kitchen. I went back inside the kitchen, opened the cellar door, and the Somerville cop was at the bottom of the cellar stairs. I asked him about the door, and he claimed he did not know anything about it, but he would come up and check the house for me, which he did. When the officer was finished, he returned to the cellar and went back outside in the driveway. Within several minutes, a Somerville officer approached us and asked if Ryan was the son. I confirmed that he was Janet Downing's son, and he took Ryan and placed him inside the cruiser. What do you guys think so far? I'm going to come back and check out some of the comments. Shout out to Norm Corey. Oh my God, I'm so blunt. Oh, we already read that one. Sorry. Okay, I'll check it in 1 second. I'll check my email 1 second. All right. Dugan and the responding local police focused prematurely and exclusively on Obrien. So much for investigating. Didn't even investigate the man that was there. And lost his cab key there. Absolutely. And they failed to, yes, they did not secure the crime scene. That crime scene was so contaminated. In my opinion, intentionally ignored or downplayed evidence pointing towards alternative suspects. I don't think it's only your opinion. Officer Blair was the first officer dispatched and confirmed that was completely unresponsive with no observable pulse. So why did the EMTs take her? Why did the EMTs take her? We're gonna finish reading this, and then I'm gonna check the email. There was no cab calls in the area that night. It goes on to say, I moved from the driveway to the sidewalk, and that was when Jessica Obrien came running out of her house to me and screamed, Ed was mugged in the square. They cut his hand off. Oh my God. I took a hold of Jesse and said, what happened? Tell me slow. Calm down. Jessica again screamed, Ed was mugged in the square. They cut his hand off. She must have been so hysterical, poor girl. I asked her how she knew this, and she said that Walter from Midnight Market called the house and told her to get her father that Ed has been mugged and they cut his hand. I asked a police officer standing at the end of the Downing house front walk if he could go inside and get Mr. Obrien that his son had been mugged. The officer went in the house. Mr. Abreu, Marco's father, was standing across the street from Jessica and me and asked what had happened. I repeated to him what Jessica had told me, and he said that he would go down to the square for Ed. At this time, the officers returned from the house and told me that Mr. Obrien was not able to leave the house. Mr. Abreu said again that he would go down to Union Square for Ed, and Mr. Abreu left. I asked Jessica who was in the house with the other O'Brien's children, and she said that she was supposed to be, so I took her across the street to the house. And Better and John Roberts were in front of the O'Brien's house, and Better volunteered to go inside with Jessica and watch the other kids. I noticed Audie Ortiz standing on the street from the house, in front of Gina Mahoney's house, using a portable phone and talking to Gina Mahoney. At this time, the ambulance attendants removed Janet from the house. The car belonging to Michelle Cameron pulled up with Paul Downing and Jeannie O'Brien in the back seat. Paul immediately started scrambling out of the car in a very agitated state. He looked around at me, and I told him to go over to his father, who was standing beside the cop car that contained Ryan Downing. He ran towards his father, spoke to him for a second, and began screaming and running across the street towards the front lawn, running towards the front door of his house. I moved into his way to block him, and so did the cop standing at the end of the walkway. Paul turned and ran back to his father. His father grabbed him, and Paul became hysterical, sobbing and repeating, "My mother, Ma, Mama, Ma." I want to see my mama. We told Paul that his mother was not inside the house and that he could see her later at the hospital. He continued to be hysterical and asking for his mama. So we moved him to the sidewalk directly behind the cruiser that Ryan was in. This would be the front yard of the O'Brien's house. Paul continued to be hysterical to the point at times being unable to breathe. Ryan came out of the cruiser and sat in front of the O'Brien's house with Paul, Jeannie O'Brien, Regina Mahoney, myself, and several others. Audie Ortiz, Janet's brother-in-law, came over and motioned for me to come to him. I asked him what was up, and he said that Janet was dead. Carol, his wife, had told him on the phone that Janet was dead on arrival at Mass General. I asked if the boys or their father had been told, and he said they were not going to be told until the father, Paul Sr., went to Mass General. I asked Adi how he found out about this incident, and he said that he had heard it over the police radio in his cab. He also stated that he lost the keys to the cab somewhere on the lawn and that he needed to search for them, but the police would not allow him on the lawn. I went back to sit with the boys, Ryan and Paul, and Gina Mahoney is concerned that Paul Jr. does not have a shirt on. I went into the house and got one of my son's t-shirts and came out and put it on Paul Jr. Paul Jr. appeared to be in shock and repeated continuously, "It's my fault. I left the front door open. It's my fault." We tried to assure him that he should not worry and just focus on breathing and holding himself together. Ryan laid his head on my lap and is not crying. He is simply holding his brother's hand. At one point, Paul is so distressed that I get a towel with ice and a glass of ice water for the boys and try to get them to drink and have Regina Mahoney hold the cold towel on Paul's neck. Others in the area are assuring Paul that whether happened, he should not worry. He continually repeats that he is sure that he left the front door open. Paul Jr. was still not doing well, so I asked Barry to walk him around a bit so that he can try and focus on walking. Barry and some of the kids held up Paul and walked him down the street and around the corner. I asked Ryan if he wanted to walk also, and he said that he would. He walked to the end of the street and back there, in which, when he stopped in front of the Lund house, Ryan said to me 2 or 3 times, "I know what they did. They hid in the house and surprised her and did it." Wow. That's what happened. I remember saying, "That's insane, right?" He said they hid in the house. I know what they did. That's what happened. I remember saying that we couldn't be sure what happened, that we would have to see what the police found. Ryan and I returned to the area in front of the O'Brien's house, as does Barry with Paul. Paul was still not responding well, and I spoke with Paul Downing Sr. He stated that he needed to take the boys to the police station, and I explained that I believed that Paul Jr. needed medical attention. He was in shock and needed to see a doctor. He agreed that his son needed medical attention, all right, and asked his wife to attend to Paul and Ryan. So there it is. What do y'all think about Regina Reckley's statement? Very odd statement. Why would he assume someone hid in the house? That's what I was kind of like. Yes, that was kind of. Yeah, IoTs was lurking. In Massachusetts, failed EMTs do not have the legal authority to officially pronounce a person dead at a crime scene. That's why they took her to the hospital. Now we know. Now we know. Boy, what a statement that was. Why wasn't Paul wearing a shirt? Did they just got back from the beach, so maybe he took it off at the beach? Why would he assume someone hid in the house? No can calls that night, but Adi Ortiz had one. With Adi Ortiz saying, I was only there for his family. Why wasn't he walking him around? Oh, he was rolling a joint. He was ready to go smoke with the 16-year-old girl, with Gina's daughter. He was about to go upstairs to that, what was it, on the third floor? He was going to smoke. He was too busy. He said, I can't go tend with my family. I got to roll something. Go smoke with the 16-year-old. He said, my mom is dead. He knew what he did. That's crazy. He knew everything. Yeah, that statement was definitely crazy. But I'm gonna go check my email. Give me a minute, man. We're gonna jam to some free Eddie.
Eddie Obrien, oh what a story to tell. 15 years young, caught in a prison cell, trapped in the system. Ain't that just a shame? For a crime he didn't do, they played him like a game. Pattern so clear, yet nobody sees. Intentional lies blowing in the breeze. Documented truths, but they're buried so deep. Poor kid lost his life while the system's asleep. Free Eddie, free him till it's backward. Guilty on paper, but he never had the hard facts. Let a fool think he won, that's how it goes. Eddie's innocence buried beneath all the woes. The man couldn't keep his own story straight. Taking the kid's future, ain't that real fate? Welcome back, chat got us talking hood-wise. Dark humor and metaphors disguised in the cries. Sir, hypothetically, in a murder case, ain't it funny how a fool runs this rat race? Growth don't happen in the middle of this mess. Step back, breathe, man, just let go of the stress. Free Eddie, free him till it's backward. Guilty on paper, but he never had the hard facts. Let a fool think he won, that's how it goes. Eddie's innocence buried beneath all the woes. See, you gotta let the clowns believe they succeeded. You didn't fold a break, you just got what you needed. Took it to the chin, not the heart, you see. Don't let the chaos take space in your melody. You're built different, like a lesson they missed. Teaching them boundaries, couldn't find them on a list. Drowning in a puddle, they dragged you below. But now you let them flounder, cause they reap what they sow. So here's to Eddie, just as long overdue. Fighting for the truth like we all have to do. Step back from the noise, watch him throw a fit. Free Eddie Obrien, let's never forget this. Eddie Obrien, oh what a story to tell. Fighting for his life in this unjust hell. Free him till it's backward. Guilty on paper, but he never had the hard facts. Let a fool think he won, that's how it goes. Eddie's innocence buried beneath all the woes. Eddie Obrien, oh what a story to tell. 15 years young, caught in a prison cell, trapped in the system. Ain't that just a shame? For a crime he didn't do, they played him like a game. Pattern so clear, yet nobody.
Here we go. We back. Add this to the stage. Give it the full stage treatment. This right here is very interesting, man. Shout out to Norman Curry. Riley thought he won. It's not over. We have no quit. Absolutely. So assist was mean, but Adi Ortiz goes and smokes with a 16-year-old. Dude is so sus. Two 16-year-olds, I believe. Her two daughters. Okay, this looks like something that was part of the divorce. The parent with whom the children have the strongest bond are highly significant for the welfare of the children. Critical decision of judge. The court finds the following. A. The husband has engaged in a pattern and practice of abusive treatment towards the wife during the marriage, placing her in apprehension of imminent physical harm, and which lead to the termination of the marriage. Whoa, the wife is entitled to a divorce against the husband on the grounds of cruel and abusive treatment. The children's best interests are met by awarding sole physical and legal custody to the wife. In reaching this conclusion, the court has considered the existence of the current 209A restraining order in effect and the current criminal charges of husband's violation of that order. So Paul Downing was arrested and as set forth in the findings of fact, the children have witnessed the father's violence towards their mother. Given the hostility and abuse by the husband, the children's need for stability and consistency are best met by remaining with their primary caregiver. Accordingly, sole custody and physical custody should remain with the wife. What do you think it is before I go on and read section C? Y'all are hearing this? All right, we're going to continue. We're going to read section C. What y'all think it is? As set forth in the findings of fact, the parties do not share a history of joint decision making or an ability to communicate to further best interest of the children. There is particular evidence of strong hostility against the wife, including threatening her in violation of an existing 209A restraining order and sitting outside of her home yelling threats to her while the minor children are present. Such actions, coupled with the pattern of abuse by the husband, the wife's ongoing fear of the husband, and the abuse prevention order against him, do not permit shared legal custody. Accordingly, the wife shall have sole legal physical custody of the children. Whoa. May 3rd, 2006, and that was signed by Justice of the Probate and Family Court. What do you know about that? Oh, this is Adi's divorce. Okay. Oh, all right. Yeah, I just assumed. Oh, this was Adi's. Yep, someone else, exactly. She said, at true crime, absolutely. Yes, at the very least, another person they should have investigated instead of a labor focus on Eddie because they needed a teenager to fulfill their political agenda. And a white teenager would do. Let's not forget that. They needed a white, he definitely fitted it, but so I don't usually, go in on Adi much because I think Adi is I I don't even know if there's any reason to talk about Adi, because like I said, I don't think they're ever going to arrest anybody. I mean, Eddie's going to get out. Like that's I believe it's a fact. Eddie's going to get out, but I think that the Commonwealth will just say that they had it right. You know what I mean? And Eddie just got over. It absolutely shows a pattern of abuse, even down to the knife. Now, don't forget, didn't Adi was accused of assaulting Carol? The inconsistencies of Adi Ortiz. It's just another name to add that they didn't investigate. Another reason that they didn't. Eddie didn't have a fair chance. This is kind of like what Freebird said in the comment section of yesterday's video about the DNA. Let me see if I might even still have it on my phone when I took some notes about it. Let me see if I still got it. Under the 6th and 14th Amendment, a defendant's right to put on a defense is a fundamental element of due process. By categorically blocking the only evidence that gave the jury an alternative explanation for the crime, DNA, the state court effectively forced a one-sided trial. I think the argument here, more of Eddie's constitutional rights being violated under the 6th and 14th Amendment. And it definitely fits all three. They violated, Eddie's right to put on a complete defense. He didn't have a complete defense. If the court blocked DNA evidence that could have shown an alternative suspect, right, or contradict what the state was saying, or contradict what the Commonwealth was even saying, Eddie didn't have a chance to do that. And these are reasons why he has a good chance at flipping this shit. That's a direct violation of the 6th, the 14th due process. And Freebird came up with this stuff. Violating mass case law on third-party culprit evidence. Freebird came up with this. The 14th Amendment due process. Because if the judge prevented the jury from hearing the only science evidence that could have changed the outcome, wouldn't that make the trial unfair? One-sided trial should equal what? Constitutional error, maybe? It's like playing poker and you know all the cards, even the hidden ones. Riley is a cheater. Absolutely. I love that analogy. You know all the cards. Oh, let me take this down. Thank you, Norman. Appreciate that. But one-sided trial should be constitutional error. DNA evidence, third-party culprit evidence, alternative explanations. If the jury only heard the prosecution's side, right, and was denied the defense's evidence, that right there, from what I understand in the book, right, is a constitutional error, right? And that's going to undermine confidence in the verdict. You couldn't have that. Everybody was going to do what this guy wanted. They only tested Eddie's DNA. The exclusion of DNA violated Eddie O'Brien's rights. He couldn't come. He could not put on a complete defense. They blocked the only evidence that offered the jury an alternative explanation, especially science evidence. And the lawyer probably knew that. Judge probably knew that. The trial court created a one-sided process. Right? Due process is there so we can introduce evidence, that challenges the government. That's the whole point of it. Preventing, the jury from hearing this shit, that's unfair. So, there's got to be something else that they could get into the Rule 30 argument. I mean, it just strengthens the whole constitutional argument. Shit like this is what gets new trials. I mean, that's a fact. This is how they get new trials. All right, give me a minute here. I'll be right back. Give me like 5 minutes.
Behind closed floors, a white boy convicted made it look fair, but in the shadow of justice the truth laid bare. Eddie was a name but just a pawn in the game, sacrificed and railroaded, nothing felt the same. Oh, just a boy from Somerville, they played with as if it was a thrill. Politics and pressure, shadows at play, innocent hearts lost in this twisted ballet. Barnum was under pressure, he folded like glass. The DA showboating, just trying to amass. The system wanted justice, but justice was blind, changing the laws, leaving truth far behind. Remove the judge who dared to be just. Eddie was demonized in the world's cruel thrust. Size mattered not when politics run deep. From day one he fought, but all they did was sweep. Just a boy from very start, a tragic confession, a broken heart. Watch Eddie's face when the world turned cold, an innocent spirit caught in a tale retold. The system failed him, that much is clear. A boy from Somerville, lost in his fear. Yet in the ashes, his story remains of the justice betrayed and the bitter pains. Through the lens of history, we sing his plight. Remember the boy who stood up to the night. Just a boy from Somerville. They played with his life as if it was a thrill. Politics and pressure, shadows at play, innocent hearts lost in this twisted ballet. So let's tell his story, raise voices, unite. For every Eddie, let's stand up and fight. Just a boy from Somerville, forever will stand in the hearts of the people. His truth in our hands.
In the courtroom lights, truth's gonna bend. Heffernan standing tall, trying to defend. Said it looked bad on paper, but it's all deeper. Politics lurking, call it a grim reaper. Eddie was just a kid, caught in the fray, but the power players had a game to play. From day one, they wanted him to fall. A kid in the spotlight, crushed by it all. Heffernan knew the truth. No, it ain't fair. Politics behind the scenes, no one would care. Guilty or innocent, the verdict was set. Justice wasn't blind, it was a political bet. Dr. Bonham was chosen, thought he would be right. A face of fairness in that long, dark night. But the DA smiled wide, played both sides slick. Heffernan thought neutral, but maybe that's the trick. Eddie's fate sealed with a stroke of a pen. My ruling was sound, but the world turned again. They needed him guilty to fit their plan, change the laws mid-game. Oh, what a scam! Heffernan knew the truth. No, it ain't fair. Politics behind the scenes, no one would care. Guilty or innocent, the verdict was set. Justice wasn't blind, it was a political bet. Juvenile court, he should have stayed there. 20 years, not a slap, but no one would care. System in panic, cause he stood his ground. But the wheels of justice just turned him around. They wanted Eddie down, they wanted him lost. With the stakes so high, he paid the cost. Heffernan's truth reigned clear in the dark. Tried to bring light, but it missed the mark. Eddie, a kid caught in a game, lost in the shuffle, society's shame. So here's a lesson carved deep as stone: justice shouldn't wear a political tone. Heffernan stood firm, knew it wasn't just in a world focused on power. Who can you trust? Heffernan knew the truth. No, it ain't fair. Politics behind the scenes, no one would care. Guilty or innocent, the verdict was set. Justice wasn't blind, it was a political bet. So let's remember as the story unfolds, the tales of the innocent, the truth yet told. Heffernan knew the truth, and it cuts like a knife in the courtroom of power. What's the cost of a life? Yeah. Let me tell you about a kid, only 15 years. Eddie Obrien, caught in the gears. Political pawns, they played their game. Power and money all in his name. But was tight with wealth, no simple fate. Climbed the ladder, sealed Eddie's state. Wayne Butter, prosecutor with a purpose. In the court of politics, none could touch us. This ain't just a story, it's a legacy. Eddie was the stone that shaped their destiny. With every connection, every hand they shake, Eddie's case became the ground they break. Riley and Bud, best friends since youth, built a law firm, they spun the truth. When Riley took the case, he was never alone. Built on foundations, power fully grown. With the Budwell network, they made a show. Charlie Baker in the mix, he's part of the flow. All linked together, climbing the heights. On Eddie's back, they rose to new sights. This ain't just a story, it's a legacy. Eddie was the stone that shaped their destiny. With every connection, every hand they shake, Eddie's case became the ground they break. Kimberly Budd, her name now in lights. Chief Justice of the court in the highest of fights. Calls Riley godfather, mentor, uncle too. Let that sink in deep, Eddie's pain paved through. Judge Heffernan ruled fair, you played your part. But the pressure came down like a storm in the dark. It wasn't about truth, wasn't about rights. It was all about power and their political heights. This ain't just a story, it's a legacy. Eddie was the stone that shaped their destiny. With every connection, every hand they shake, Eddie's case became the ground they break. Eddie got used by a system so cruel. A pawn on the chessboard, they played him as a fool. So remember his name, let it echo, let it be free. Eddie till it's backwards. Fight for the right you see. Can we keep it real honest? Let the truth ignite. We don't bend, we don't break.
That's right. It's free Eddie till it's backwards. You know what I mean? Till it's Eddie's free. You know what I'm saying? That's what I say. Free Eddie all day till it's backwards. What's going on, everybody? We back. And we're going to go over something else. But first, I just wanted to, say thank you. Thank you very much. Freebird with the 20. Thank you, Mikey, for all you do for Eddie. Blessings, my friend. Free Eddie. These songs are amazing. This one touches deeply. You're very, very welcome. Nice at Freebird. My son is great at chess. He told me as a teen after my divorce that it was unattractive. I didn't know how to play. And I think I also seen here a $4.99. Big shout out to Ad Denise Noel with the wrench. Free Eddie O'Brien all day, every day. So we're gonna go back over here. We're gonna go get a report from the laboratory. Miss Kate McGilray. All right, let's see. We gotta do this. We gotta do this. And we add this to the stage. And we take this Eddie O'Brien is sitting in prison because the audit no longer exists. Some people, I think, took offense because I said that, whether he did it or not, this is why I feel like he should be out. And people are like, well, if he did it, no, he should never be out. And it's like, that ain't how the law works. That's not how the law works. We're going to break this down, see if I can explain it so people can understand. Talking a little bit about DNA, and I explained the other day, if you watched my show a couple of days ago, we talk about how DNA has different columns, like different aisles. You got banana aisle, apple aisle, strawberry aisle. Easiest way to put it, you break something down in 3 aisles. But, so think of it kind of like a corner store, that just has a couple different aisles, and each shelf has its own numbers and you cannot mix them. And I want to get this off so I don't want to look at the chat so I get confused because this is so you don't really want to mix the different shelves. So you can't grab, let's switch it up, right? Let's say we have bread, cereal shelf, and a milk shelf, right? You can't grab a cereal box and say it came from the bread shelf. You can't do that. That's exactly what Riley did, or he tried to do. See, Eddie had a 12, but it was in the wrong shelf, so it was in the wrong column. Remember I said the columns, DNA columns? Eddie's DNA shows 11 and 12, right? In the CSF column. Say that's a cereal column, right? But the crime scene samples, right? They had a 12 in the bread column. 2 different shelves, 2 different columns, 2 different categories. So you know what that means? 2 different DNAs, if I'm not mistaken. So what Riley did is say he got cereal and he must have brought bread, but that's not how it works. You can't get cereal and get bread. Like you can't take one and get it from the other column. You can't cross columns, not ever, 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 ever. This is the number 1 rule that they were saying in DNA, because a number 1, a number in one aisle can never count as a match in another aisle, ever, ever, can never, ever. No debate, never. It'll never lie. It just can't happen. So when Riley was telling the jury that Eddie's 12 from one column explains the 12 in the next column, it's like Riley saying, my shoe size proves my hat size. No, you're an idiot. The samples had X and a Y chromosome. Right? The samples had an X and a Y. This means, right, the DNA came from a man, right? But check this shit out. DNA came from a man, right? But the man's DNA in the sample did not match Eddie. Oh, he's guilty, right? He was there, huh? DNA did not match Eddie. So the man DNA in the sample did not match Eddie. It didn't match him in the bread aisle, the milk aisle, or the cereal aisle. You were assed out. Can't get nothing in this store. If the numbers don't match, the person is excluded. Remember, I said, when JFK was talking about the stuff the other day, and he was going over the audio, and I said, you can't cross the columns. And he said, what kind of columns are we talking about? But this is what I was talking about the different columns that you cannot cross. So actually it's the TPOX column, the Tito 1 column, and the CSF column. But I thought it was just easier to say, just to explain it, because not everybody, we all are not, I'm not intelligent. Not at all. I don't know, I just understand the law shit, I like it. But if the numbers don't match, right, then Eddie excluded. Not maybe, not possibly, not kind of, excluded. Which means, like, reasonable doubt, anybody? Jury, are you listening? You clean your ears out? Damn, anyone that still thinks he's guilty at this point, put in the chat. I know we don't have big streams like the other places, but we have almost 700 views on the JoJo. So we're building, we working. But the fingernail DNA also didn't match Eddie. Right? So we weren't done there. The fingernail shit didn't even match. See, Janet's right hand, right? Her nails had, I think it was an 8 and a 9.3 in one column, right? And Eddie has a 6 and a 9.3. There is no 6 in the sample. So what does that mean? It means Eddie is not the male who left the DNA under her nails. Will you repeat that? So if she scratched someone, the DNA under her nails doesn't match Eddie. That's a major, major big deal right there. But what did Riley do? Right? This is the crazy. This is why this shit keeps me up. This is why I should be sleeping right now. I work all night long. Look, I'm like hyped. I'm up. I'm here with you guys trying to free this guy. All right, I'm going to look in the chat. Do I know what I'm talking about? A little bit. So let's see. I haven't looked in the chat. There's a lot of things here. Do I know what I'm talking about? Just maybe a little bit. So sus. He knew everything that was going on. Why did he say she is what they never said anything? Then he showed up with no shirt. Free Eddie. Free Eddie. Show the DNA. Free Eddie. Riley thought he won. That's right. It's not over. And if you can't change DNA to add up to your agenda, absolutely. Back then, there were so many ways to cheat the results with it being a human that was doing all of it, looking at it, writing down what they saw, or should I say, didn't see. Absolutely. That's another way to put it. It's like a banana, an apple, and an orange. They're all fruit, but an apple is not a banana. Exactly. Like your hand, foot, and eyes are all part of your body, but your hand is not your eyes. We would have confused people with that free bird, though. People would have been confused by this one. Like your hand, foot, and eyes, you know? We need another stream with JoJo. Oh, it's coming. It's coming. So Freebird breaks this down. You know, Freebird's definitely way more smarter than I am. So here's the three different DNAs, right? Work on chromosomes 5, 2, and 11. They're all chromosomes, but different in what are in the location of each, totally separate, and they could never be mixed. No matter what, there's so much reasonable doubt. Absolutely. They should have looked at IDRTs. They should have maybe the kids. Like that was a violent house. Oh, we got the big $10. Me too, Mikey. Such an injustice absolutely breaks my heart. You are doing good, Mikey. Yes, you are telling it right. You know, thank you. I appreciate that. Because I know I heard some people saying that, you know, you don't even know what he's talking about. But I'm glad I got some validation, but I really don't need validation. Thank you, Sherry, for the $10. Really appreciate that. Glad I made it today. Pre-op appointment, surgery in 7 days. Thanks for all you do, Mike. Free Eddie O'Brien. You know, prayers go out for you and your surgery. You know, the entire chat be definitely praying for you. You know, free Eddie. This is insanity. Prayers for your surgery. And back then, yep. And the following day, I take my wife for her dental surgery work. Back then, George was not educated enough on DNA to know how to go against what they were saying so wrong. Well, the other thing about George, I think that George was part of the fix. Why else would he put on a 2 day, 2 days, a 2 day defense for a life sentence case? I think George already knew. I think he had some problems coming down. So they said, "Hey, listen, take care of us on this," because he didn't even try. He didn't even put on a defense. Wait till we get little Eddie up on here. He's gonna tell you. Listen, everybody, go support Margot Nash and her book. You know, you want to know what had politics and schmurder. You know, very good book. Go check that out. You can find Margot on most social media formats. You just punch in Margot Nash, Politics and Murder. Very good book. Auntie G, how do I order a shirt or should I donate to the defense fund? What is the best way to help right now? Please more JoJo. JoJo rocks. Love hearing him talk. Well, we're going to have to get JoJo back up here then. You know what I mean? You want to hear JoJo talk more Eddie O'Brien? It's amazing how close JoJo is with the O'Brien family. And he said, they're the epitome of family. They made me feel what I've been missing all them years, and JoJo is really speaking from the heart. And JoJo's the real deal, really bent walk down some alleys that some would never make it to the other side. They only tested Eddie, and then Riley stopped all further testing. But what it did do is the testing ruled out Eddie. It was not Eddie's DNA. And that's when people say, oh, Eddie, Eddie's guilty. Like, we can't rule Eddie out. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's been ruled out. If it wasn't for fear, Eddie got convicted on fear and fear alone. Riley got everybody afraid. And that's how it goes. You make everybody afraid. Oh my God, it's so bad out there, so bad out there. That's what they do. Corrections do it all the time when they're trying to get more money, we need more money. Our guards, they're afraid to go inside. Beep, ba, bop, ba, beep, ba, bop. DNA doesn't match Eddie, bottom line. Because he has a 12 somewhere else. That's like saying he owns a red shirt, so he must have a red hat. The fix is in. I think I wasn't it Mago that said that there wasn't enough fingernails to test, or they didn't. I think it might have been Mago that might have said that. That's BF. If Eddie was excluded, then there was enough to test. Looks like they didn't want to cross it with anyone else. Absolutely. Pin it on the boy. Or just like pin it on the girl. There was more than enough DNA. Trisha, Auntie G said you can go on Facebook or Instagram. Let me know if you need more information. I think Free Eddie O'Brien. It should be a link over there, or Eddie O'Brien. Well, thank you, Joe. Hey, Jojo, for the last few minutes, man. They was like, yo, you need Jojo back. Hey, chat, tell him. Here he is. Let him know. Tell Jojo he needs to bless the stage again.
Gotta come back.
Jojo, like they was all just saying, yo, we need Jojo. Jojo's the real deal. We need Jojo in the house. They want to hear Jojo talk more about Eddie. So we're going to have to make that happen, Jojo. Any donation of $40 to Eddie's exoneration gift, send go will let get you a t-shirt or tote bag. Send a snapshot to Sherry Lee on Messenger. So that's how you get your shirt. And Norman Corey, the good thing is now we have massive technology for DNA testing, where the results cannot be manipulated and also have ways of repairing DNA, so they have no excuses now. Absolutely. And now here is the link right here. If you want to get a t-shirt, you make a donation. So you go here, and they have the instructions on the page. You break it down, you get it to understand, and you see what's not seen. Thank God you showed up. I appreciate it, so it was fate. It was fate leading me here. Well, it's not only breaking it down, right? I think it's explaining it to the people, like, because this shit gets crazy. So you gotta explain it where people understand it. We're gonna free Eddie. Like I told Big Ed, this channel is Eddie O'Brien's for the using, whatever he needs. Here we go. Add JoJo. Amen. And Mikey has a big heart and passion. He says what he says with truth. Standing 10 toes down, just like me. Absolutely. Thank you. You see that? Look at that, huh? Not bad.
Absolutely. Make you breathe.
Absolutely, man. Partners forever. We want another stream with you, JoJo. Love hearing your real talk. You now have soul family with the O'Briens. Yeah, they want to hear some more of JoJo, so we're going to make that happen. If there was not enough DNA, then how was Eddie excluded, which he was? They knew the numbers 1 in 360 white and 1 in 420 Spanish or something close to that. They didn't want the truth. Absolutely, Norman. They didn't want the truth. The truth was going to cost them a lot of money. And the juries had no idea of what all that DNA talk meant. So they assumed they were telling the truth. They were not telling the truth. They have to hire us and bring us in so we could break the DNA now. Aunt Jerry said, "You're welcome." But that's not science, like we'll get back to what I was saying. The DNA didn't match Eddie because he was a 12 elsewhere. Everyone wants JoJo back. Yes, look, another one. We will make it happen. I'm going to have to call his publicist. I'm going to have to reach out to his agent. But it's not science. Like I said, like, yeah, you must own a red hat. He owns a red shirt. No, dummy, you're misleading the jury again. Riley took a number from the wrong DNA column, right? Pretended it belonged in another column and used that lie to tell the jury the DNA matched Eddie. How George didn't buy it, I don't know. It is what it is with that guy. You know what I mean? That's probably a story for another day. Even though the real DNA didn't match him at all. At all. At all. But people, man, that's it for today. I'll be back with Mike. See? JoJo gonna be back by popular demand. Yeah, we're definitely gonna set that up. But people, it's been 2 hours and 27 minutes, man. I really appreciate everybody. Shout out to all you, holding it down. We'll be back, tomorrow. As soon as I get home from work. There goes my son driving by with his brand new Toyota. Wait, he got a better truck than me.
Sure.
He's on a brand new truck, drive by beeping, brand new Tundra. Shout out to him, man. He works hard for what he has. He works hard for what he has. Listen, everybody, give me a minute. I'm going to play a quick song. We can come back and close this
innocence shattered in a world so torn. They said it was fear reopening the doors, filled with whispers behind closed floors. A white boy convicted made it look fair, but in the shadow of justice the truth laid bare. Eddie was a name, but just a pawn in the game, sacrificed and railroaded. Nothing felt the same. Oh, just a boy from Somerville. They played with his life as if it was a thrill. Politics and pressure, shadows at play, innocent hearts lost in this twisted ballet. Barnum was under pressure, he folded like glass. The DA showboating, just trying to amass. The system wanted justice, but justice was blind, changing the laws, leaving truth far behind. Remove the judge who dared to be just. Eddie was demonized in the world's cruel thrust. Size mattered not when politics run deep. From day one he fought, but all they did was sweep. Oh, just a boy from Somerville. They played with his life as if it was a thrill. Politics and pressure, shadows at play, innocent hearts lost in this twisted ballet. And those inside knew the story was wrong. We could have done better, sang the old wrong song. Experts pressure to twist the truth, arm in the court of despair. There was no charm.
Well, before I leave y'all, there was something else. No, there was another email, and of course, while we're here, of course, let's go over it. This is more from Mass Courts, about Adi. Can everybody see it, right? All right, there it is. Oh, too big, too big. Slow down. Damn, this can be. Oof. So on March 9, 2005, wife obtained a 209A restraining order against her husband. And if you need the docket, it's right there, 200550RO106. The restraining order was ordered upon request by the wife based on the wife's testimony that the husband held her in their kitchen against her will, punched holes in the wall, and threatened her with a kitchen knife. Damn, Adi. Damn, Adi, a kitchen knife, knowing what Janet went through. Damn, boy. What kind of shit is that? A kitchen knife? The children were present when this incident occurred. The children have also witnessed other incidents of the husband's violent outbursts. After the issuance of the 209A restraining order, husband has been accused of violating the order and is currently facing criminal charges. Damn, Adi. Wife remains in fear for her physical safety with the emotional safety. And I'll tell everybody here, don't try to go looking for Adi or searching him down. You know what I mean? Because I've been advised how people don't do that. Just stay away from Adi. Whether you know where his house, don't be a detective, don't be an investigator. Don't put yourself in a bad situation. I will say that, because I know there's probably a lot of, diehards in here that say, I could probably convince Adi to talk to me. Let me go talk to him. You don't want to do that because you don't know what you could be walking into. You know what I mean? So just be smart. Be smart about that. And let's see, there's one. Was this the same one? I think this is the same one. Yep, and we already read this one, right? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, man. So be careful. Be wary of Adi. You know, be wary. Be careful. Stay away from him. I would advise anybody to go try to. Can't wait to see Eddie living his dreams and his best life. I'm really believing it. You know, after a lot of stuff that I read today, I don't see how the court cannot. Adi claims the 209A was dropped along with the arrest for violation. It was remitted 2 months after the divorce. It was held for a year and a half. Proves he is a liar. Oh, we definitely know that, Norman Corey. We definitely know Adi is. You know, Adi is definitely a liar, you know, but yeah, man, appreciate Norman Corey. You're welcome anytime. Anytime you want to send me stuff, you have the email. You know, salute to everybody. Salute to you guys, man. Peace. You know, thank you. Be safe. Don't do nothing I wouldn't do. You know, but before we get out of here, you know, let me leave you with this. You know, when you strip this all down, the politics. Oh, there we go. Yo, beat. All right, the DJ put some beats on. Yeah, I think when we strip this all down, the politics, the headlines, the fear, the labels that they slapped on a 15-year-old kid, you're left with something real simple, man. You're left with numbers. You're left with columns, science and facts. And the crazy part, the numbers been telling the truth. It's the people who didn't. Because when a prosecutor stands in front of a jury and says, oh yeah, that 12 in this column came from Eddie's 12 in that column. We already know that's bullshit. You can't mix columns, right, people? That's not science. That's someone hoping a jury don't know the difference between cereal, aisle, and bread aisle. You know, so now you know you can't take a number from the wrong shelf and pretend it belongs somewhere else, right? You know a little bit more about DNA today, you know, because, you know, the guy Mikey that has no idea what he's talking about told you so. No one can do anything to Adi. He has not done to himself. Absolutely. Anytime, you know, but yeah, so don't cross streets without looking, don't cross DNA columns, and don't remix the science to fit your story, man. And when the real DNA, the actual numbers are telling you the male DNA don't match Eddie, remember it don't match Eddie. No, and when the process breaks, when the evidence gets twisted. Absolutely, man. Look left, right, then left again. But when shit gets misrepresented, it gets twisted, it breaks. And the truth gets bent out of shape to secure a conviction, man. But we're going to keep it real, right? We're not going to slide. We ain't going to bury it. We're not going to move on. We're free Eddie all day. We don't bend. We don't break. You Oh, free Eddie all day, man. I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. You already know, if you need me, hit me up in the email 24/7.
Yeah. Let me tell you about a kid, only 15 years. Eddie Obrien, caught in the gears. Political pawns, they played their game. Power and money all in his name. But was tight with wealth, no simple fate. Climbed the ladder, sealed Eddie's state. Wayne but a prosecutor with a purpose. In the court of politics, none could touch us. This ain't just a story, it's a legacy. Eddie was the stone that shaped their destiny. With every connection, every hand they shake, Eddie's case became the ground they break. Riley and Bud, best friends since youth. Built a law firm, they spun the truth. When Riley took the case, he was never alone. Built on foundations, powerfully grown. With the Budwell network, they made a show. Charlie Baker in the mix, he's part of the flow. All linked together, climbing the heights. On Eddie's back, they rose to new sights. This ain't just a story, it's a legacy. Eddie was a stone that shaped their destiny. With every connection, every hand they shake, Eddie's case became the ground they break. Kimberly Budd, her name now in lights. Chief Justice of the court in the highest of fights. Calls Riley godfather, mentor, uncle too. Let that sink in deep. Eddie's pain paved through. Judge Heffernan ruled fair, you played your part. But the pressure came down like a storm in the dark. It wasn't about truth, wasn't about rights. It was all about power and their political heights. This ain't just a story, it's a legacy. Eddie was the stone that shaped their destiny. With every connection, every hand they shake, Eddie's case became the ground they break. Eddie got used by a system so cruel. A pawn on the chessboard, they played him as a fool. So remember his name, let it echo, let it be free. Eddie till it's backwards. Fight for the right, you see. Can we keep it real honest? Let the truth ignite. We don't bend, we don't break. We will stand for the light. Just a boy from Somerville, caught in the storm. Innocence shattered in a world so torn. They said it was fear, reopening the doors, filled with whispers behind closed floors. A white boy convicted made it look fair, but in the shadow of justice, the truth laid bare. Eddie was a name, but just a pawn in the game. Sacrificed and railroaded, nothing felt the same. Oh, just a boy from Somerville. They played with his life as if it was a thrill. Politics and pressure, shadows at play. Innocent hearts lost in this twisted ballet. Barnum was under pressure, he folded like glass. The DA showboating, just trying to amass. The system wanted justice, but justice was blind. Changing the laws, leaving truth far behind. Remove the judge,
From day one he fought, but all they did was sweep. Just a boy from Somerville, they played with his life as if it was a thrill. Politics and pressure, shadows at play, innocent hearts lost in this twisted ballet. And those inside knew the story was wrong. We could have done better, sang the old wrong song. Experts pressure to twist the truth, arm in the court of despair. There was no charm, he never stood a chance. From the very start, a tragic confession, a broken heart. Watch Eddie's face when the world turned cold. An innocent spirit caught in a tale retold. The system failed him, that much is clear. A boy from Somerville, lost in his fear. Yet in the ashes, his story remains of the justice betrayed and the bitter pains. Through the lens of history, we sing his plight. Remember the boy who stood up to the night. Just a boy from Somerville, they played with his life as if it was a thrill. Politics and pressure, shadows at play, innocent hearts lost in this twisted ballet. So let's tell this story, raise voices, unite. For every Eddie, let's stand up and fight. Just a boy from Somerville, forever will stand in the heart of the people. His truth in our hands.
Yeah. Yo, the dope. Yeah. Yeah. The day hit different, phone rang like a church bell toll. Told the boy at the tavern, Saturday night shell crack. Stories he told. 4 deep in the whip, mission sealed in black ink. He wrote a check his ass couldn't cash. Now we coming to collect that link. Town tavern, lights low, shadow dancing on floor. We slid in quiet wolves in sheep clothes, eyes locked on the sword, sat across like chess masters, pawns ready to flip the board. No retreat, no surrender, 4 horsemen, death have been called. Turtle in the tavern, slow motion, think he's safe in his cup, but the reaper sent fall. Now the bill coming due. What's up? What? He wrote that check, now his ass in the red, feel the heat rise. But the ratchet skank shield popped up. Saved the turtle that night. Turtle in the tavern, slow motion, think he's safe in his cup, but the reaper sent foe. Now the bill coming due, feel the heat rise inside the spot. Tension thick like fog in the graveyard mist. One hitter goes to the bar, poking the bed, trying to get a reason to twist. Give me your look, give me your word, make this personal, fool. Turtle boy sipping slow, shell tucked tight, acting cool. Boss on the line, voice cold, he with a ratchet, whole position. Didn't plan for the extra variable. Skank in the equation, phone buzz twice, heartbeat sync with the bass in the back. Hitters itching, fingers twitching, ready to paint the whole scene black. Metaphors in motion. Turtle versus the Hawks in flight. Shell made the pixels, blogger life for real, still in sight. Ratchet turned savior, hood armor, lipstick like war paint. One wrong move and the whole tavern turned to a horror scene. Faint, boss said I'll call you back. Line went dead like a ghost, then it rang abort mission. Stand down, let the turtle boast. The ratchet skank saved them, unintentional guardian angel glow. Turned 4 killers to civilians with a presence alone. Turtle boy exhaled, never knew how close death did creep. Broke them blogs like swords, but that night his pen almost sleep. 4 guys dipped out, shadows melt back into the dark. Lesson learned, Turtle got away that night. Left his mark. Next time, no ratchet shield, shall get cracked, no rehab. But tonight he walked free, and that's a different path.